Hi, and welcome to Tech Tip Friday. I'm Kurt Staley, that plastics guy, and I'm bringing you a tech tip that you can take to the shop floor with you today. So I've done a couple of Tech Tip Fridays regarding color, and I thought I would just take another Tech Tip Friday to talk about something that's really core to using color at master batch in your processing equipment, and that is the letdown ratio. So what does that really mean, and why does it vary or seemingly vary with different colors? Well, quite simply, the letdown ratio is the percentage of colorant to base resin. 2% is very common, so in your mix, 2% colorant, 98% resin gives you 100% of your mix. Fair enough. So why does it actually vary? Well, that has to do with really just one thing: the strength of the pigments used to create a certain color. Now, since we're basically dealing with organic pigments and the heavy metal pigments of days gone by are relegated to the history books where they should be, some of these colors, these organic ones, certain greens, blues, very vibrant reds and yellows, they may require a much higher loading level to achieve the color that you want. So in my last Tech Tip Friday, I mentioned looking at if you want a color that's highly chromatic or vibrant, or one that's a little bit duller, that can save you some money. Well, those pigments are very expensive, the ones that you need to get very chromatic blues, greens, reds, some yellows, not all of them. Some are very vibrant and are quite reasonably priced too. But when you need that chromatic color and you need a certain shade of color, that may dictate a higher loading of pigment in the colorant master batch. And that means you might go from a 2 to a 3% or a 4%. In some cases, I've seen as high as 5% for certain colors. So again, if you can work with your color supplier to work on a certain shade of a color, you can actually save some money. Now, if you're in a situation where you're doing a custom molding application and you have to meet a certain shade, no ands, ifs, or buts, it's a color that's maybe core to the brand of that particular product, well, it is what it is, and your customer has to understand that if they want color X, it's going to cost a certain amount. And if there's no compromising involved, I mean, it is what it is. We're not coming up with high letdown ratios and higher prices to be difficult. That's what it costs to make that actual color based on the pigments required to make the match. It kind of is what it is. So just keep that in mind. Letdown ratio, it's somewhat a function of the pigments that you're using to achieve a color, and it can also be a function of the type of processing equipment that you're using. If you don't have equipment that can put a lot of work or mixing action, you may have to go to maybe a 3 or 4% just to get good dispersion of color. But more typically, it has to do with the pigments that you're using to create a certain color, and you just need more of those pigments to get that color, because organic pigments, they're the right thing for the environment, they're the right thing, the right direction to go, but they're not as potent as what we used to have, and we can't use those things anymore, especially if you're into anything to do with a food contact application. Heavy metal colorants, no way, long time gone. But most of us are just simply using organic pigments because it's the right thing to do, and we've got to do everything we can to keep our products low in toxicity and environmentally friendly. So this is kind of what we're left with. So I hope that gives you some insight as to letdown ratio, pigments, the nature of working with organic pigments. It is what it is, but I do hope that's information that you can take with you to the shop floor and impart design consideration, marketing, the whole works. Have a great Friday. We'll be back next week with another tech tip. Be good. Thanks so much for tuning in.